Hey everybody, this is Caroline from So Can She, and this is week 7 of our color by number Quiltalong, where we all made my color by number quilt and we're quilting it. Oh my gosh, my computer is repeating what I said to say because I left YouTube on, so just a minute. Okay, hopefully I closed all the browsers on that computer. So embarrassing. Anyway, I'm so excited for what we're doing today. I want to show you first my practice quilt and how I got started. Remember, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments so I can answer them. So here you see my little practice quilt that I do. You see here I quilted a grid with squares that are 4.5 inches tall and wide so that I can practice and kind of see how a design is going to look in each block before I go ahead and do it on my quilt. And I can kind of also get an idea of the dimensions and the size and the scale of my design before I do it. So you see here, I started playing around with the idea of, here's the first one I did, with the idea of this diamond-shaped design. But at first, I thought it needed more, so I played around with putting some pearls in it, some little pebble shapes here, and then I put some wishbones here, and I tried some wishbones over here on the side, and I wasn't sure if I liked that, so I made another one here, and on this one, I did the pebbles on the sides and I did the wishbone in the middle, and I was like, okay, that looks all right. And here I did another one and I left it plain, but I just kind of changed the distances between my lines here. And then I thought, well, what would it look like if instead I put the pebbles on this space instead of the outer in the middle? So that's kind of what that looked. And then finally, I just played around with the distances here, and this one is my favorite. It's simple, but I don't think the block, especially on this quilt, I don't think it needs a whole lot of extra embellishment. Of course, if you want to add it and you love quilting and you want to add lots of extra little things, go for it. And also here, you see I did another one and I added some extra lines in it. So all the rest of them, the one that we're going to do has 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I tried with 8, and that looks good too. So if you want to add a couple extra lines, then it will look something like this. So I did lots of practicing before I got started on our quilt, because you know this quilt is going to be so beautiful. Here's the most recent one I did. And it's just coming out beautifully. And you see how our blocks become diagonal patterns in our quilt. And so I'm going to have my little diamonds kind of flow through in this direction. And I really love that. Once again, if you want to add more detail into your block after you have quilted the diamond pattern, by all means, go ahead. Okay, so the only one marking that I did, and I'll show you how to do this design both with a quilting ruler, like this one that I have from Westerly Designs, and I'll show you how to do it without. Now, personally, I think that this design looks much better when you use a quilting ruler, just because you get these nice straight angular lines. But if you don't have a quilting ruler or a ruler foot for your sewing machine and you want to just do it without, it's totally possible. If you're just getting started and you haven't invested in all the tools yet, don't let that stop you. The most important thing is to just get started, get a feel for the way the quilt moves in your sewing machine. Get a feel for how free motion quilting is done. And I promise you, the more you do it, the better your quilting will get. So there's only one marking that I'm going to do for these, and I'll do it for all of my blocks, the same whether I'm gonna quilt them with the template or not. And because this is my fabric number 1, of course you can put this design in any color of blocks you like. I kind of started here with color number 5, and then I worked down in descending order. So now I'm on number 1, and this right here is my number 14. So I don't know if I'll do number 14 next week, but we'll get there. So the one mark that I'm going to do, oh, and by the way, since this block is so dark, I'm using a white quilt marker, and this is the Sew Line, I think it's a ceramic marker. I just really like it because I don't have to push very hard, and it makes a nice line. So the line that you are going to mark is going to be in the opposite direction that you want your little diamond to flow. So this diamond flows this way. So the mark, and you can kind of see, I didn't erase it, but it's already starting to fade, my mark that I drew for this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark the rest of these because I know I'm going to want it. Now this line, you notice I didn't stitch through over this line following it. This line is kind of like a bouncing board. You're going to sew to this line, and then when you hit it, you'll pivot and change the direction of your quilting. So for this one, yeah, I'll have this one go the same direction. You see for over here, for this little triangle, it flows this way. And then here I'll change direction and go that way. Okay, so now that all of my blocks are marked, my sewing machine ready here. Now you probably already know that I have this sewing machine set up with my Supreme slider underneath the quilt, and I have my feed dogs dropped. Your sewing machine manual might tell you to drop the feed dogs to do free motion quilting, or there might be another solution such as covering up the feed dogs. So just read your manual. So to get started, I'm going to pick the place where I'm going to get started, and I want to start right here. So here's my line that I marked. I'm going to start right here. And the reason why, I'll just explain it really quick. The reason why I want to start right here is because for this design, we are going to end up in the same spot where we started. So if I start here, I will end up here, and then I'll be in the perfect position to do the diamond shape here on this block. I'll also end up here though, so to move on past that, I will either have to travel down to another corner to get started, or I'll just have to break my stitching to get started again. I'll just travel. You know, I don't mind traveling at all using my quilting ruler and just stitching in the ditch. So to get started here, I'm just going to drop the needle and lift it. And then I'll pull up my bobbin thread. And then I'm just going to sew a little bit. All right, to secure the threads. And since I'm just a home quilter, this is not a show quilt, I will go ahead and just clip those later. I'm not going to bother with burying them. If I was a fancy quilter, then I'd go ahead and bury my threads later, but not that fancy. Okay, so you have several different ways you can go here. Remember, this block back here is the one that I'm working on. This one right here. So I'll turn it a little bit using my ruler. I don't need to turn my quilt like this so much. I just need to turn it to make sure I can see where I'm going. And I want you to be able to see where I'm going to. So I'm going to pivot and bounce when I hit that line that I marked. And To me, this diamond is prettiest when I use the second line on this ruler. So you see there are 3 marked lines here on the straight edge ruler. I'm going to place one end of the ruler on the foot, and then I'm going to pivot the ruler until the second line right here hits the corner of the block right here. And then I'll go ahead and quilt in a straight line until I've hit my marked line. I'm just gonna cut that away because it bothers me. A little bit of OCD going on. Now I'm just going to pivot my ruler now, and keep in mind that, I'll do it over here, maybe you can see it better. Keep in mind that my needle is a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the ruler. So I'm aiming for this other corner over here. I'm aiming for this back corner. So I'm going to place the edge of the ruler a 1/4 inch away from that and stitch to the corner. Okay, so I have made the first little line here in my diamond. So now, to make my next one, I'm going to use the same distance that I measured before. I'll put the second line on my ruler right at that corner where I pivoted before. So now I'm just going to stitch to the line, to the marked line, and I'll turn my ruler and arrange the edge of the ruler to be a 1/4 inch away from this corner here, so that that is right where it's going to hit. I'll huddle my quilt up so that it doesn't get caught. And there we go. Second line in my diamond. So let's do a third one. We've got 3 lines in each direction. So I'm just looking down here so that this line on the second line on my ruler is right at that point where I pivoted just now. So I'll place it on there, and now I'm just going to stitch to my white line. Okay, and then I'm going to stitch to the corner. Okay, so we've got our 3 lines, half of our little diamond, and now I'm just going to do it on the other side. So once again, I place the edge of the ruler against my foot, and the second line on the ruler is going right at this corner, right here, this corner. So here we go. Just to the line, and then stitch back to the corner. Back. So I'm placing the second line on the ruler. Well, you can't really see it. Let's see if I can get it. So I'm placing the second line on the ruler right on the little corner where I pivoted in my previous one. So, there we go. And now back to the corner. And one more time. Pivot my ruler. Second line on the ruler is on the corner that I just pivoted on. And back to the corner. All right. That looks beautiful. Okay. Now I'm going to do one more. I'm not really going to talk you through it anymore. I'm just going to show you the speed that I would normally quilt this design without anyone to talk to here in my studio. And even though I'm not talking through it, see here, I'm not going super fast. I don't quilt super fast when I'm ruler quilting. I pretty much just find a tempo and a pace that works for me. And work at that pace. But as you can see, this is a very quick quilting design. If you fell behind in our Quiltalong, this is your week to catch up. You know, sometimes there, I wasn't quite in the corner. Sometimes you have to take a stitch or two to get you where you want to go. And now you can tell that we're going to end up right where I started. There we go, another one. So now I'm just going to travel a little bit. I'm going to travel right here. These two pink blocks are so similar in color that I think it will hide my stitch in the ditch. Especially this color of red is very similar to this block. Okay, now I'm ready to quilt on this one. I promised I'd do one without the ruler, so I'm going to go ahead and do this one without the ruler. It is not going to be as straight, and my lines here are not going to be as evenly spaced, and that's just because I'm doing it freehanding it. Now, of course, if you wanted to, you could get a ruler like this and you could measure out. And let's see here. So these, on the one where we were measuring, they are about 1 inch to 3/4 inch apart. So I could make little tick marks here on my little line, but then that would just take so much time. So I'm going to just freehand it without marking. We'll see how terrible it looks. So, but I do have my little bounce line right here that I'm going to sew to. So my first attempt is just to quilt straight till I hit here and then bounce back to this corner. So let's see how it goes. There we go. Bounce back. Now I'll go back here. And one more. And now 3 lines in the other direction. And one more line. Okay, and you see that one really doesn't look all that bad. I thought it would look much worse. So see, you can totally do this design with or without the quilting rulers, but if you are getting started using quilting rulers, then I totally suggest that you use it, because not only does it make quilting your lines straight easier, but it also helps you to make the distance between these lines more consistent. But I think this is a beautiful little design. It's really going to complement our quilt so far, which is looking really great. If you missed the square feather, the feather in a square, go ahead and look. That was week 6. And here's week 5, week 4. So much fun. Okay, now let me see if we have any questions. Just kind of move my camera up here, and I will take a look at the questions. I know, that's the worst part. Worst part is arranging my camera. Okay, let's see here. Hi from Finger Lakes, New York, from UK, from Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay. NC Lawson says, will we get written diagrams of the blocks? I don't think so. I don't think we need them. we do have the quilt pattern, which is on my blog, socantshhe.com. If you follow the link that is below this video, there takes you to a page where I have all the videos so far, plus links to the pattern and links to all of the different tools and the rulers that I use. Not that you have to use the same ones, but if you are looking to use the same tools that I have, then I put links to everything. So as far as I right now, I don't have time to make some more PDFs, and honestly, I'm showing you everything here in the video that you need. If you want to print up the picture that I post on my blog so that you can, or that comes in the newsletter, you can right click on the picture and download it to your computer and print that up if you want to trace the design. But really, what I really suggest that you do for practicing is, I threw it on the floor, but make up a practice quilt sandwich, as I suggested, with a 4.5-inch grid of squares, and just go crazy. Practice. You might come up with a completely different design that you love and that you want to incorporate into your quilt. And if you do that, you better send me a picture, because I might like it too. Okay, let's see here. Katie says she's behind. Well, this is a week where you can get caught up, because this one is so fast and easy. All right, let's see here. I'm so glad you're not disappointed. What marking tool did I use? I explained it in the beginning. This is the Soline ceramic pencil pen marker. I love it because it's white, and so I often choose to use this marking tool when I am working on dark fabrics. When I'm working on light and medium colored fabrics, you know, I often use my Frixion pen, which removes with an iron. I know some people complain about them and they've had a bad experience, but I've never had a bad experience with the Frixion pen not coming off. You just have to dab it with the iron. This has a little eraser on it, and so that will you can kind of rub the line off. It's kind of like a chalk line. For the pictures for this block, the ones that you got in your newsletter, what I did was I just took a scrap of fabric and I got it soaked and bring it out, just damp, and I just kind of dabbed it with a damp cloth, and most of the lines completely came out. So this is kind of like chalk. If you want a less expensive alternative to this pen, then just get Taylor's chalk and you draw a skinny line with Taylor's chalk, or use a Frixion pen if you picked one if your block fabric is really light. Just something like that. Just something. I found that I try and do as little marking as possible. I always want to get right into the quilting. But I found that if I do just a minimal amount of marking, sometimes it makes a big difference in the way that my quilting looks. And this is one of those blocks. If I just do this minimal amount of quilting, just our one diagonal line, then my blocks look so much better. So let me see here. Let's see here. Keep your notes in a doodle book. Totally, totally. I should put them in a book because I have notes on scraps of paper all over the house. I'll be watching TV with my family, and a quilting idea will come to me, and it's either an idea for a new quilt or for a quilting design like for this quilt, and I'll start like scratching it down on a piece of paper, and I really should have kept those in a notebook. But that's actually how this one turned out. I was watching TV with my family, and I started just doodling, and I made a grid for myself on paper, and I started doodling different designs, and that's when I came up with this one. It's really simple, but I think it really complements the quilt. Not all of our designs have to be fancy. I think having a really simple one thrown in with our other fancier designs makes them all look beautiful. Okay, let's see here. Everybody says thank you. Well, you're welcome. If you have any more questions, go ahead and post them. I'll answer them as soon as I can. And if you have any quilt designs that you would like me to work into this, please leave them in the comments, and so I can see if they will look good, if I can work them in. So far, we haven't really done any fillers, you know, like spirals, or you know what I mean. We haven't done any fillers like meandering or anything. Is that something that you would want in the blocks in this quilt? So far, pretty much everything we've done is just everything is kind of a motif. So, but I think this quilt is going to be beautiful with your help. Maybe you can help me think of some more designs. If not, I'm going to have to be working on it and keeping my brain on it this week. Since we did here, last week we did a curvy flourishy design. The week before that we did this straight edged square spiral. Then we did this flourishy feather, and now we did straight edges, straight lines here. I'm thinking that for the next one, it's gonna have to be something curvy. So think on it, I will think on it, and you guys have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back here next Friday. See ya.